A few years ago, when he was 4, my son stole Nutella out of the cupboard and ate it under his blanket.
Hello, everybody. Mr. Autism here, and I am with a very special guest. This is our first time actually meeting each other, so let's see if it goes well. Hey, Adam. How you doing?
Just great. How are you?
Well, I'm still alive. I hope it continues. So, how did you first heard about me?
One of my best friends, Paul, was interviewed by you, and I thought that was really awesome, and he recommended that I get interviewed by you, so that's what I thought I'd do.
And what are you looking to get out of this interview?
I just enjoy talking to people, and if people want to know about autism, I can tell them my experiences.
I like that. So what are some of the things you like to talk about?
If you have any questions, I'm open to answering them, I guess.
Okay. So I think I asked Paul this question, but I can't remember, so I'm going to ask you anyway.
All right.
When were you first diagnosed?
So I was first diagnosed when I was 6 years old. I did not know I had autism until I was about 15 because I got diagnosed, but my mom didn't want labels to define me, so eventually... But, in fact, the first time I heard about autism was I have a friend, a really good friend who's a foreign exchange student from Spain, and he goes to Spectrum Academy, and anyways, a member of my bishopric contacted me and said, hey, Jordan has autism, and that's how I first learned what autism was, and eventually I'd always noticed I was different from other people, but eventually I was like, Mom, do I have autism? And she was like, yeah, you do.
Leave it to a parent to be completely honest with you. Especially moms. Moms, she's right off camera. Moms are very honest with their kids. Now, I'm in a similar situation because I was diagnosed when I was 7, but my mom didn't want, and my dad didn't want to label me either. So I wasn't even aware I had it until I was 23 or 24. And by the way, we're both members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Say hi to the Mormon kid and the weird Mormon guy with the mask. I served a full-time mission, even though I have the diagnosis, and for some reason, by the grace of God, I survived. So maybe that'll happen to you, maybe it won't. But you said you have your friend Jordan from Spain. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He is going to Spectrum Academy, right?
I believe so.
Are you going to Spectrum Academy?
I am homeschooled.
And what is your favorite subject being homeschooled?
I love science and mathematics.
Any particular subject in math? Like, I know there's geometry and algebra 2, trigonometry, blah, blah, blah. Any one of those that pique your interest?
So don't think of me as because I am definitely, I'm not like a math genius or anything, but I just love math because it's like a puzzle you do with your brain, because it's cool, and a lot of that plays into rocket science, and I think rocket science is really cool.
Is mathematics or rocket science one of those things that you want to pursue when you get older, or is it just something that you enjoy?
It's just something I find fascinating. I think I'd want to be a psychologist because...
Amen to that. So, with that being said, have you thought about college at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm hoping to get a degree in child psychology.
And have you thought of any college in particular, or is that still a ways off for you?
BYU or Weber State are my two things that I'm thinking about.
Do either of them have like an autism organization or an autism group on campus?
That's a great question. I guess I'll figure that out when I get there.
And the reason I say that is because I went to UVU, and they do have an autism group on campus. And I'm not trying to convince you to go to my alma mater. I'm just saying that that's something to look for. Especially because at UVU, they actually have a building now specifically for autism. It's to help autistic college students learn how to function on campus, how to function by themselves, how to function in school. And I got to tell you, one of the things that I was approached by when I was a part of the group, very briefly, when I was a part of the group, was by one of the teachers or the leaders of the group. And she's asked me, can you talk to these boys about how to talk to girls? Why me? 'Cause you're married. It's a grace of God that I got married. Let's just be honest about that. Speaking of which, are you dating anyone?
I I have an unofficial girlfriend.
Is she happy to hear that?
I sure hope so. Let's hope so.
Do you feel confident enough to share this interview with her after it goes public?
I guess I'll figure that out.
That is a very good answer. So, with that being said, what are some of the things that you like to do outside of school?
I love daydreaming, reading. I'm currently rereading the Harry Potter saga. I'm also really into science fiction and love Star Trek and Star Wars.
Speaking of Star Trek, are you familiar with the show Picard?
I've heard of it. I mostly watched the original series from the 60s. I know, I'm a really old kid.
That's fine with that. I'm fine with that. And the reason I asked that is because Picard is based off of the Star Wars The Next Generation. And that's my wife and I's favorite series. And Picard is just basically the main characters but older and their kids and how they tackle the struggles of the galaxy. And it might be something that might interest you. And if not, don't worry about it. But either way, it's Star Trek and it's cool.
Oh, I love Star Trek The Next Generation. In fact, I've never seen much of the show, but I love the movie First Contact. That's a
Nice choice. And I know that this is actually something for his mom to pay attention to on this one. A lot of people have made comparisons between people on the spectrum with Data, the android, because of his struggles with social communication and his rigid thinking. And first of all, how do you react to hearing that?
This is just my opinion, but I say you could not have chosen a more accurate character, because that I definitely feel I relate a lot to Data, and I love in Generations when he first puts in his emotion chips and he just like is so overwhelmed by the emotions, and how even when he drinks something and he hates it, the waiter's like, "Can I get you another?" And he's like, "Oh, please."
Amen to that. I'm totally with you on that one. I'm so glad you are also that you also think Data is a pretty good example. Because speaking of another good example, have you heard of the Big Bang Theory?
Yes, I have heard of it.
Do you know Sheldon Cooper?
Oh, the show, like not the scientific theory. You mean the show?
Yes.
Gotcha. I have heard of the show. I don't know much about it, just that it's a show. Isn't it a game show?
No, Big Bang Theory is a sitcom that is based around 4 very nerdy scientists at Caltech or whatever the university is. And one of them is definitely a guy on the spectrum, or at least he portrays a lot of behaviors and traits on the spectrum. And the reason I bring that up is because my mom and dad are now watching the show and love it, and they're saying that they're just okay. My mom looks at the show and goes, "You know what, husband, you act just like Sheldon Cooper. Now we know how to connect with our son Brian." That's my real name, by the way. Basically because my dad acts just like the character Sheldon Cooper, and he and I think very, very similarly. So just as an example, have you found something in popular media that your parents have gone, okay, this is definitely our son Adam?
My dad, this is the only thing I can remember, but my dad says Calvin and Hobbes. I asked him one time, I read I loved the comics, and I asked my dad, have I ever done anything that seemed like Calvin to you? I asked him, have you ever met any kid that did something that seemed Calvinish to you? And he said, a few years ago, when he was 4, my son stole Nutella out of the cupboard and ate it under his blanket.
I like that. My brother introduced me to Calvin and Hobbes. You got good taste, man. So we are getting near to the end of the interview, and I just have a few more questions I wanted to ask you. First of all, if there's something that you want to say that you feel like is important to other people on the spectrum, what would you say?
Just recognize that you're very special, and don't let anyone. I have had some other friends who have struggled with people insulting them, but don't let anyone bring you down, because people with autism can succeed. And just as an example, Bill Gates has autism. He's one of the most influential people in the world, so just think about that.
Very good. And now with that being said, final question. Adam, what's your favorite word?
We.
That's a sound effect, man.
I have never much thought about it. I don't know. I don't think I could choose a favorite because words are constantly coming out of my mouth.
I can relate to that. But now that you got something to think about for the future, thank you very much for joining us. This is Adam. He was very kind enough to join us today, and I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.